Hello, guys. Good evening. Suresh here. Today, we are going to start the introduction of Google Cloud Platform. Just a quick overview. In last episode, we have gone through the fundamental of cloud computing. What is cloud computing? What are the different type of service models? Like we have discussed, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, and we have learned about deployment models like private cloud, public cloud, hybrid cloud, community cloud, etc. And we learned also what is the history of the cloud and what is the benefits and pros and cons and of the going through the cloud. So that was just a generic overview and introduction about the cloud. And from this chapter, this is chapter 2, we are going to jump into the Google Cloud. So there are primarily most widely used three clouds are there which are used most widely globally. One is GCP, another is AWS and Azure. GCP is growing prominently now. AWS has been in the market leader and still market leader. Azure is also on the second number, but we see a lot of growth in GCP. That's where we started with the GCP, and GCP is one of certified engineer is one of the top paying now, and for quite a few openings are related to GCP. So since GCP is growing in demand and there is a lot of requirement for GCP engineers, so I'm starting with GCP. But yeah, it's not the most widely used. AWS is the top, and after that, Azure is catching up very fast, and after that, GCP. So let's get started with the GCP. What is GCP? So GCP is nothing but a Google Cloud Platform. In short, we say GCP. This is a service provided by the Google Cloud. So we will touch upon that. So this is going to be the agenda for the day. We will go through the first when we are jumping into from basic cloud understanding to the cloud engineering, the cloud platform management. We will look into like what are the different skill sets required for the any cloud engineer to work on the cloud efficiently, and we'll get into the more in-depth detail of the GCP. What is basically Google Cloud, what kind of services it is offering. Okay, and then we will just get into both. Basically this is going to be more of a platform overview. There is a very little theory here. We'll try to spend as much as possible time on Google Cloud Console to get familiar with the Google Cloud Console creation of what are the different services, what are the different tabs, what are the different type of products, services are available and provided by the Google Cloud, and how we can benefit from them. So we'll see, since we have set up the, I have set up the Google service account in last episode. It's a very simple step that this may be this will be skipped here, but yeah, this is one of the first step when you want to get into the Google Cloud. And we'll see this, as I mentioned, the service overview, and then most importantly, we will try to do some practical hands-on here. Basically, we will try to host a simple website, and then we'll touch upon how to take the next step. So with this agenda, let's get started. So yeah, this is a quick brief about me. This is Suresh Prajapati, and I'm CISSP and ECS certified. You can reach me on this email or on LinkedIn or on YouTube channel. So yeah, so before we directly jump into the practical and uh, start creating the services or doing the technical work, I just wanted to touch upon what are the different skill sets are required for any skilled cloud engineer. So as we know, the Google Cloud is nothing but a kind of a abstract layer or abstracted data center. We have all different type of services which we use any kind of in physical data center environment. The only, as we discussed in last meeting, last call, that virtualization and abstraction is the only thing which is different from a physical data center and between the cloud. So to be a cloud engineer, it's like working in a virtualized data center using a web UI or API or cloud command. And so whatever the background fundamental skills are required to work in data center environment, same is required in cloud as well. The only difference is how you operate in cloud environment compared to data center. So if you look at here, like you should have a basic understanding of what is a cloud provider, how cloud providers work, or what are the different types of cloud. So this we have touched upon in our last session, episode 1. You should have an understanding of fundamental, like basic understanding of a kind of what is a programming, different scripting language, Python script and YAML scripting, which is used in CI/CD pipeline or in your IC infrastructure as a code. So Python and YAML program scripting and the shell scripting are a few of the programming and scripting language you should be familiar with. Containerization, as we discussed in the last episode, virtualization and virtualization is moving towards the containerization now, where we are moving from VM to container based application deployment, more lift and shift kind of deployment structure. We are moving on from virtualization, and we are most of the companies now who are which are cloud native, they are trying to get into the virtualization and using containerization. You should know basic, at least you should have a basic fundamental understanding of CIDR, what is networking, what is routing, firewalling, what are the different policies, how ACL work, how networking, what is a private cloud, private IP, what is a public IP, basic load balancing understanding, layer 7, layer 5, layer 3, layer 4 protocols, so that these things you can configure in cloud. DevOps is, as I mentioned, is a fundamental uh, principle or the method which is being used, which gets involved when you want to develop and operate or deploy any kind of web application in cloud environment. So DevOps is a topic which we'll cover in more detail in coming days, and I'll make a separate video on DevOps, and including that I'll make a next step as a DevSecOps. So here the line between development and the operation is gets uh, thin, and it's kind of a merged team where developers are doing the development as well as trying to deploy the if seamlessly and automatically the application into the cloud. Database management, as you know, like we have a cloud native database and RDS and different type of databases. So if you're deploying any application, you should have a basic understanding of databases. APIs, yeah, so APIs are prominent not just for the cloud, definitely for the cloud, but nowadays APIs are everywhere. If you are using any service, any kind of application, if you're hosting, APIs are everywhere, and it's going day by day. So API, you should have understanding not only for the cloud, but if you're working in technology, if you're working in platform, if you're working in security, anywhere you're working, you should have understanding of API. Virtualization is more of a infrastructure understanding, but you should have a understanding what is virtualization, how it works. We have touched very brief introduction of virtualization in first episode. You can go and check there. Web services, basically, Amazon Web Service basically is nothing but a kind of a front end which is providing the Amazon services, and you should have basic understanding how web application works and how it's hosted, what in a cloud environment. Linux. So as you know, Windows servers are getting reduced day by day. Most of the things are coming on Linux. Container is mostly predominantly is a completely Linux environment, where most of the containers are Linux based, very kernel stripped small amount of kernel packages are basically the containers. So Linux is a very much required for, if you are an infrastructure guy or if you're a security person, you should know the Linux. I believe Linux, you should not be just familiar with the beginner as a beginner, but you should have at least some SME level of understanding of the Linux, because it involves everywhere, whether you are doing scripting, whether you're deploying container, or if you are running the security commands, and it helps everywhere. So I think Linux is a kind of a very beginning stage. So if you look at Google Cloud, will also give us the shell. So if you're hosting any web server and all, so it gives a shell. So you should have understanding how this work, how to operate the shell. So this is a very basic skill, and we should spend some time on Linux. We'll see if we need to create a video or episode involving introduction to Linux and basic fundamental training. So we can make that as well. And security and recovery. So as we do whatever we do either in cloud or in on-premise, security and basic resiliency and recovery is a part of our business requirement, where you need to be doing everything securely. And also we should have a resiliency part, where like in case of any disaster we should be able to recover back. So this is a kind of a very short and very simple skill map, but there are a lot of things involved here. Each area involves is itself. We have experts in every company. You will have a DevOps engineer, you have a Linux engineer, you will have programmer, you will have virtualization expert. So these are the area. But yeah, as a cloud engineer, you should have at least simple understanding of all these areas. So with this, we'll start with the get into the more detail now. So, introduction to cloud now. So, since our topics today is Google Cloud Platform, we will do the we will try to understand what is GCP, and we'll try to do some service creation and all using the Google Cloud Platform. So Google Platform is a suite of cloud computing services that runs on the same infrastructure that Google uses for its end user products, such as Google Search and YouTube. And GCP offers a broad range of services, including computing, data storage, data analytics, and machine learning. So yeah, so as we discussed in our first episode, that the underlying infrastructure data center is same used by AWS as well as GCP. So basically they are selling their investment in the hardware using the cloud services. So as GCP also doing the same thing. They have the data center which they are just selling as a service to the customer, and trying to utilize the infrastructure, and also trying to get good benefit as cloud adoption is a very high. So before we get into technicality, let's understand what is the benefit of going into cloud GCP. So there is no much different like going into cloud, any cloud. This is going to be same for uh, any of the cloud provider, the prominent cloud provider, whether it's AWS or GCP. So as we know, scalability and reliability is the one thing, like you should be able to scale. So this is a fundamental definition of any cloud. You should be able to scale, and the reliable services should be reliable, so that you can host your production services, and whenever you need it, you see there is a requirement change, capacity requirement, you should be able to self-service basis, you should be able to scale that. Second is broad range of services now. So since we have started the cloud journey earlier, very few services were available on cloud, but now as we know that almost AWS is having 200 services, and I think I think more than 100 services are there on GCP. I mean, they have I think 20 type or 20 or 40 type of different type of services under that, like computing services, networking services, and etc. That we'll touch upon. So it should have that kind of service availability, so that it can cater to wide variety of users. Pay as you go pricing, as we discussed in the first chapter. This is a basic fundamental characteristic of a cloud. You should be not like paying upfront everything. You should be paying whatever you are using, and whatever time you are using. So this is again same thing, secure and compliant. So as we discussed, Google Cloud need to any cloud provider need to be compliant to the international standards, local regulatory and regulatory requirements. So this is also the same benefits of using the GCP, which GCP comply. So yeah, so this is the benefit of using GCP. So as we discuss, Google is a global company, and just to see the what what is the scale of any cloud deployment is. So if you look at, they are present in 39 regions. Okay, so almost they are present in almost same number of countries, but regions can be in a country it can be multiple regions. So for example, if you look at uh, in India, they are present in Mumbai and Delhi, in Singapore, Doha, Daman, Tel Aviv, in, if you look at in US, East, West, Central, okay, Sydney, Singapore, everywhere. So they are distributed widely. So let's say if you are a company and you need to offer certain services to global customer, hosting this kind of structure is infrastructure is very expensive, and it takes a hell lot of time to establish this and also maintain. And it's a very expensive. But if you are utilizing the cloud, you get this is you can utilize this scale from a day one. Let's say if I want to host a service, global service, let's say a website, tomorrow only I can launch the website and it will be available in a different region, and everybody can, even though if thousands of users are coming on my website or even millions of users, I can utilize the cloud and it will be able to serve those many customer, which is very almost close to impossible to do in a data center environment. If you want to do something similar scale at a data center, it will take months. So that is a beauty of any cloud provider, and GCP is one of them. So if you look at that, they are having 18 zone, and network edge location means basically from where they can request the where they can receive the services, and they are present in 200 plus countries and territories. So this is the kind of reach we are talking about. So what are the different type of services offered by the Google Cloud? So if you look at, this is a screenshot from their site as only. So they have, as I mentioned, they have almost 20 or 22 or 25 types of services. When I say 20 or 25, so let's say compute is a one type of service. Under that, compute engine, app engine, all right, cloud function, this kind of different type of sub services are there. So compute is a service, identity and security, where cloud IAM and cloud platform security, different type of services are there. In that, under networking, they have a virtual network, cloud virtual network, DNS, and cloud CDN, and etc. Big data services like that, storage and database service, machine learning, and there are IoT services and different type of services. This is just example. So they have wide variety of services. If you want to see, we will, when we'll go on Google Cloud platform, I'll try to show you what are the different services they offer. But this is just a, when I say type of services, this is the type of kind of segregation they do. So so before I get into platform directly, now let's look into the what are the different management tools. So you can log in the Google Cloud, and there are different ways you can use the cloud, GCP cloud basically. So there is a console, as we are going to use more prominently today. You can use it CLI. There is a command line interface. You can use PowerShell as well. There is a Cloud Shell which is provided by GCP itself, PowerShell, and there are other than, you can use APIs, and APIs basically you can use Postman to put the command or uh, create the services and get all the get anything basically CRUD operations. So so what we are going to do today, so we are going to uh, create a one scenario. Basically, we will be just creating account and try to host a web service, simple web service on behind the load balancer on Google Cloud. So let's get started. As we are going to, as I mentioned, today is going to be more practical than theory. So let's get into directly into the console. So get to go into the Google console. Just try, it's free console login. So as we have seen how to register in GCP, I have shown in the last video. It's a very simple step. Just go to the Google Cloud console. If you're not registered, it will take you to the registration. So I'm already registered user. So you can see I have used the Sekov Suresh and I'm logged in. So so when I was talking about type of products and services, let's get into the overview dashboard. So this is my basically my first project. By default it's created, and if you look at that, what information it gives. So it is giving just generic information based on uh, what are the different ways you can getting started, what kind of services you want to deploy. Okay, what are the different type of resources are there. There is a billing information, there is a cloud platform status. Basically, if there is a kind of some notification, like if some maintenance or something is going on, that those kind of information. As I mentioned, there these are the, if you look at, these are the services which we have just touched upon, right? So if you look at here, the compute engine, right? So virtual machine instances. This is the type of services we just saw in the slide. So if you look at the virtual machine, virtual instances, instance template, here the storage days snapshot, basically taking the backup of the images. Okay, so BigQuery, this is a networking component. So basically you can if you want to create a virtual network and all this firewalls. So if you look at under the networking, there are so many services, type of services. There's a network security part. Under that there is a routers, basically routes, as we discussed. You should have a base. So basically when we talk about the engineering, cloud engineer, they should have at least basic understanding. What is a basic firewall, how it works, what is a function of a firewall. Okay, what is a function of IDS and IPS, what is a route, what is a router, what is routing, what is switching. Okay, what is a layer 3 protocol, what is a layer 4 protocol. So if you look at, if you don't know what is IP address, what is a IP, private IP, what is public IP, so that it makes very difficult to work in any kind of environment, not only cloud. So fundamental comes always first. So this is about the networking. They have a SQL. There are many more. So Kubernetes. So basically, Kubernetes, Google Cloud, Kubernetes engine. So basically, this is a container orchestrator. So which we discussed, right? The containerization part. So here we talk about the DevOps and containerization. So basically, this is a service, Kubernetes engine, okay, which build and manage container-based application powered by the open source Kubernetes technology. So Kubernetes is nothing but a technology which is used for managing the containerization. I don't want to get into detail containerization here, but what I'm trying to show is, and in fact the Kubernetes is developed by Google itself for their own purpose, but yeah, later it was made available for the general public as open source. So this Kubernetes is available in all the three cloud, AWS, Azure, and GCP, and you can also deploy in your private in your on-premise or in your laptop as well. So look at this. Look at the list of services they are having. So identity and access management, multi-factor authentication, right? These are the application. I think these are the different analytics application. BigQuery, Looker Studio. You can make a live and interactive dashboards for your analytics database. Let's say if you have certain database, you want to create let's say your financial analytics database data, you can use Looker Studio and other BigQuery, I think used by the companies for their analytics. It's similar to like I'm not very familiar with all the services, but I know some. I have worked on Looker Studio. It's a good analytics tool. I've never worked on other this one. So I think there are, for the different type of consumer, there are different requirement. So financial services analytics type. Okay, so this is the type of service they are having. They have a dedicated, this is a type of service. Okay, when we talk about type of service, analytics is a type of service, database is a type of service, integration services, right? So if you are creating any workflow, ETL and all, so you can use these services. Network we have talked about. Operation, I'll come back later, but if you look at the backup, how backup and monitoring, like monitoring your metrics, basically your what is the status of your services running on cloud, and a tracer is basically more of a I think the tracing the if you want to debug and all. If you look at the BigQuery we're talking about, and yeah, so I think the very hot topic, artificial intelligence. So they have a wide variety of services for artificial intelligence creation. I think the machine learning and all. So this I never use. I think anybody who is working on AI can explain better. But they have a AI LLM kind of support where if you want to run any project which requires large learning model, so doing that is again kind of very expensive on on-premise environment. So you can always leverage cloud services, GCP and all, to leverage the this one, the performance, and make your model learn for better AI performance. Okay, so these are the other Google products. Like you can use Google Maps, you can use Google APIs. If you're, let's say, building any app, let's say kind of Uber kind of app, or any app like a food app where you need map, you can use this Google Workspace, basically your Gmail, Google Doc, uh, uh, Google Deck, basically Google Presentation, and you can use in, if you're using, let's say, any Google Workspace, you can use APIs and basically to integrate here. API is, again, you can use anything with API in Google Cloud, but yeah, these are the some example where you can use the Google Map API, Google Immersive Stream API, and Google Workspace APIs to get the data. Okay, so this is a if you look at here, the whatever we have seen here till now, this is all are provided by Google itself till here. These are the Google own services. They are part of the Google platform. They also give the option, though you can leverage the external partners as well. For example, you can use Redis, MongoDB, Cloud Volume, Splunk. Basically, Splunk is a SIM solution. Apache Kafka, Databricks, ELK, Elastic Cloud, Citrix. So these are the third party services. This is not a GCP provided, but yeah, still they have a marketplace where you can use third party services, where you can utilize them to integrate with your GCP cloud. However, this is not the only list. These are the maybe Google partner, but there is an n number of flexibility where you can install or integrate with any type of partners. So these are more of a Google partner, but let's say you want to integrate with any other elastic basically SIM solution, you can always do it. If you want to use any other database, you can do it. If, let's say, you want to use MS SQL, you can always do it. So this is not an exhaustive list. This is maybe just a Google partnered themselves, and they are showing these services. So it's not the only thing you can integrate, but you can integrate with any kind of services. They support Web3 also, blockchain, this one. I think people who are interested in blockchain and uh, technology behind it, they can explore this. So this is the part, this covers the part of the type of services offered by the Google. So what what are the most utilized services in this? So basically depends. So if you are using virtual machines, you are in a kind of a VM based environment, so you will use VMs. Okay, you will create a, let's say, Windows virtual machine, you will create a Linux machine, Ubuntu machine. So it depends what kind of environment. As I mentioned, if you are using container environment, so you'll be using basically the Kubernetes engine. Here, you will be using containerization, managed Kubernetes to deploy and run your application using managed Kubernetes. Okay, so whatever is the your requirement, based on that. For example, if you're running a AI project, you'll be going to the you'll be mostly using this area, the AI services. Okay, if you are just, let's say, you are just a financial organization, and you are leveraging for only the financial service based analytics or BigQuery for the analytics of your financial data. That's it. So it depends on the industry and type of environment you are. But what I understand is most common services will be the compute engine, the and Kubernetes engine, VPC, basically the networking component, and certain third party applications, like if you are using, for example, if you're using for monitoring, you're using Elastic, or you are using any other third party services. Okay, so these are the generally used, this one. And yeah, so these are the most commonly used services, I would say, for the basic users. So even though if you want to do basic stuff, at least you should have understanding of kind of networking. You should have understanding of Linux machine, how web work, and if you have a database, you should have basic understanding of database, and the basic fundamental like load balancing, network security, firewalling, secure ports, and etc. So that much understanding you should have. So this we have run through, just to familiarize with the what are the different type of services provided by the Google Cloud. So now we'll get into the slightly utilizing this. So now let's start the scenario building. So what we are going to do here is, basically we'll just create a web server on Google Cloud. We will install the web server on that virtual machine. We will try to put that virtual machine behind the load balancer. Okay, and we will try to access that web server from internet. So this simple exercise will do. I think this should give us the quick understanding how Google work. Although it's very simple, but as this is a beginner, I think that should be good to start with. So let's get started. So as I mentioned, I have put here step creation the account we have created. Okay, let's create a project. Okay, let's create a new project. Okay, let's go here and web server, web hosting. Let's create a project, web hosting. So if you are in any organization, then it may you can choose, let's say, your company name, but this is a private, so we can keep like this. Let's create. So creating a project. So as we discussed last time that you can create project based on different type of project, or collective projects we are having. Let's say you are working in a, for example, bank, or let's say you are in a certain application environment. Let's say you have a financial application, or it's a set of type of projects you can relate. So let's get we are in web hosting. So now first step is, let's create a VM. So for this web server, now depending on the what type of web server you want to host, you if let's say your services are on IIS, you will need Windows VM. But and if let's say it's going to be Nginx or a web Linux based like Apache, you have to create that. Okay, so let's do that. This is API, so let's create a VM. This is just activating. Some, I don't know why it's taking so much time. Normally, it does not take that much. Okay, so let's create one instance. I think we have done this in a last episode as well, but let's get started. So I think this is a web one. You can give whatever the naming convention you want to follow. This is a web server one. I want to give that. Click. You can, as I mentioned, as you saw that you can choose whatever your location, right? So basically, depending on your preference, let's say if your customers are in India, you can choose India. If you are a global customer, you can choose any region. It doesn't matter. Okay, and there are certain difference in the cost also depending on what region, what location you choose. Normally, default locations are the cheaper one. But let's say if you have any regulation, let's say you if you want, if you are dealing with the EU data and there is a customer involved, I mean, or you're having some GDPR requirement. So always prefer that if you're, let's say, Indian banking customer, so you will prefer to choose the India region, right? So you don't want to RBI to come to you and say you need to keep your data in India, right? So more migration will be difficult. So when you're choosing the region, please keep in mind the regulation, your customer, and your industry requirement. Okay, your and if you have also, let's say, any connectivity between your data center and this service, let's say uh, you have a data center, your primary data center is in India, and you want to have a connectivity between cloud and data center. So always better to keep these things in mind. There are various other aspects, but I think these things are primary. The regulatory requirement, like your regulatory, like your country regulations and laws of your data. So EU, if you are a European customer, it is always advisable to keep your data in EU. If you are an Indian customer, always advisable to keep in India. Similarly for the US, if you don't have any regulation, then you look into the cost, look into the customer requirement, performance perspective, and the cost from a cloud hosting perspective. So we will keep here US West 4, okay, default one. There is no need to change. We will keep a very uh, basically it's a low cost dev day-to-day computing one. But let's say if you are kind of very optimized one, right? So if you look at here the categorization, okay, so this is a general purpose. Here is a compute optimized. Like here, if you have very heavy requirement, right? So here is a very H3 high performance computing workload, 88 cores, right? 88 CPUs, 352 GB memory. Like this C2, ultra high performance, 4 to 60 GB memory, CPUs, sorry, 4 to 60 core, 16 to 240 GB memory. So if you look at the whatever I'm choosing, the cost will automatically will come here. I think this is just under preview, so there is no. I think it's not isn't available in the region. Maybe in the US West region, this is not available and it's in preview. Okay, so however, you can see the cost, right? This is a total cost H3. So this is a, if you look at this monthly estimated cost of just for the this compute is going to be $4,000. Okay, and it's about $5.55 hourly cost, right? So this is again, this is a slightly lower configuration than H3 C2. Then again C2D, this is a 2 to 12 core, and this again memory. There is a lot of memory available, 4 GB to 896 GB. This is again depending on your configuration. This is going to be on an average cost for you monthly. This is a compute where you need heavy computing. There is also the memory optimization where you need, like, instead of core, you need high memory. Let's say there is some application which is required, so like high computing. So this is a more of like a high memory utilization compute. Okay, this is where you need different type of and different CPU requirement, right? You have NVIDIA, you have basically, again, if you look at this again, let's say I'm going to host any GPU services, right? Where, for example, in AI now, so NVIDIA, so T4, and this is more of like for a NVIDIA GPU kind of processing. So what kind of environment, what kind of services you want to host, that will be your decision point, whether you want a general computing basic work like we are doing for kind of a lab or testing, or you need a very high performance compute, if you need a very high memory, or you need a very GPU. This is a GPU. So GPU is quite heavily used in AI ML nowadays, and this will give you the NVIDIA processor for your running your GPU. If you're just running a web-based server, yeah, I think this is good enough to start with. So let's get with the default. I think this will have a based on this a platform. You will have one GP to 128 You have a point, I mean, quarter core to basically 32 32 CPUs you can choose. So let's see. This is a shared one E2 media. This is again, just keep machine type default. It's a 4 GB memory, 1 to 2 CPU, shared core. This is again standard. We'll keep availability zone, availability policies. See, if you choose spot to get a discounted promotable VM, otherwise click standard. So this again, if you want to this one, you can choose this. But let's keep the standard. So it says that E2 instances require spot version model to terminate VM host machine. So let's take the spot. It's fine. So or else you can choose any other one. So it's very user friendly. You don't need to. You just need to understand what VM you need, what memory you need. Other than that, nothing is required. Confidential computing, it is not required. This is for only if you want to, let's say, sharing or keeping any confidential information. You can read it. This service adds a protection of your data in use by keeping memory of your VM encrypted with keys that Google doesn't have access to. Okay. So confidential computing is more of like if you are dealing with a very sensitive data or confidential data. So this could be very good service for the banking customer or any company which thinks their data is confidential. Okay, deploy container image to this VM. So if you are so there are two ways to use a container. Either you can use manage Kubernetes, which we saw, or as I mentioned, you can install Kubernetes and container on your virtual machine also, which is like you are managing that. If you use manage Kubernetes, this part will be managed by the Google itself. So we are not deploying container here, so we'll skip that. Okay, so this is a boot disk. Size is 10 GB. This is good enough. Service account, compute engine, default service account. This is account. We'll keep this. Okay, access this one. This allow default access. Firewall. So I'm not allowing this one. I'll allow this one. Allow health check. Allow this one. Basically, basically we are going to deploy load balancer. So it will not be directly accessible over internal this VM. But since HTTP traffics will be coming and we are putting this behind load balancer, so I'll put it. So this is a basically firewall. Anyways, I'm going to put only install basic web server. Only HTTP is enough. But yeah, so we can just skip this also because I'm not going to install certificate. Ideal in production scenario, it should have only HTTPS, not HTTP. But you can always enable HTTPS, and anybody going on HTTP, you can always redirect them to HTTPS. Observability agent we are not installing because we are not going to keep this running. But this ops agent is nothing but it just keep monitoring if your computer telemetry, and it will give you Google Cloud so that you can see the status of your uh, computer or your machine, whether it's running, what is the CPU, what is the memory. So in production you can always do it if you don't have any third party like elastic monitoring or any other capacity monitoring tool. Normally it is used by third party. We generally use third party. But if you're a small company, you don't have any other tool, and it's a very small setup, you can always enable this and keep a check of your instances. So we'll keep this right now. This one you can give different tags, different. This one IP forwarding is not required. We are not doing forwarding this one, so we are just getting that request from internet. So basically we are trying to set up this here. The first, the application server, basically the web server. So this setup is this. Shield VM SSH, all these things are not required because it's a very basic thing we are doing. So we may not need all these things. But as I mentioned, security will come if you're doing anything in production. So that the deployment the capacity and everything changes in productions. But however, it's just a simple lab. We are doing this. So yeah, here it's getting created now. Let's see the VM creation. Okay, so our web server is ready. You can see it's web server one we have created, and it's a status is running. And this is a private IP assigned, and this is a public IP assigned. So if you see this, if I open this now, if I open this now, nothing will open because there is nothing running on it. So now what we'll do, we'll just try to access the server. So there, as I mentioned, use there are different ways you can connect. So for the simplicity, let's use the browser-based SSH. So this will give us the access of the server itself. So first time it will take time because we are just a new VM. This is SSH in browser. This is one of the method as I mentioned. We have what are the different ways we can use it. Cloud console. So basically, this is nothing but a cloud console, and see this is a cloud shell basically. So this is a browser-based shell environment. So this we are trying to use here now for the accessing the browser. Okay, let me try to open this in a new window. Okay, so I'm just opening maybe this one SSH in a different window. So now, just for the sake of visibility, I'm putting it in a new tab. So it is asking for the allow SSH for authorization. I'm going to authorize it. Now establishing the connection. Okay, so if you look at, we are in web server one. So this is a web server. If you want to check what is IP, so if config is command is not there, so we can install it. So to install, basically, if config command, the VMs will not have most of the command nowadays. Like earlier, this used to be basic services available. Now we will install just to show you how to check the IP. So to install that, we'll just run app sudo apt-get net tools. Normally, if you look at in Ubuntu, it will show you what tool need to be, what command need to be run. But yeah, I'm not sure why if config command is not running. Okay, if config, yeah, this is a correct command. Let me see if it's installed properly or not. Sudo switch apt get install net tools reading package reading. Okay, all right. Somehow it was not installed properly. So now you can see. So basically, this is the IP, and we can see here. We'll keep a note of it. Okay. All right. So now, so basically, to in Google there is a concept called as a. Uh, so basically, now this web server will be accessible directly. Uh, okay, we have not installed the web server. Okay, so it's not accessible. So let's get in. Let's install basic web server using the same command Apache 2. Okay, so let's get. We are installing apt-get install Apache 2. So it's asking for permission. Yes. So here we are just trying to install the basic uh, web server just for the this one. So now we want to put this behind the load balancer, right? So I don't want my this server to be directly accessible over internet. Or for example, let's say in traditional scenario, if we have a multiple web servers, right? So how you will route the traffic and how will load balance your traffic. Also, there is a security aspect of it where you need to keep your web application firewall in front of your web server, so that any application level attack or any internet based attacks are getting monitored and filtered at a load balancer level. Okay, so that's what we are trying to do here. So let's check. Okay, so let's look at the status. Okay, so now you can see uh, web server Apache 2 services are running. So these are the basic command. Basically, I think you can also use system CTL command status. Okay, so basically, these are the basic commands. So that's the reason we mentioned that these are the basic command you should know if you want to verify something. Let's say if you want to just check the IP, or if you want to just check the status of the your web services. Okay, so let's see if it's working. Okay, so this is still not working. So now we will put our web service behind the load balancer, and we will expose that. So now, yeah, so I was talking about the in cloud, if you want to put anything behind load balancer, or you want to create uh, any suite of application, right? So you need to create them in the instance groups. Okay, so let's first create the instance group. So basically what is an instance group is nothing but it's just kind of a group of system where uh, your whatever your configuration and policies will be deployed. Let's say you have a how the load balancer will know what are the different servers are there, what in this network, and which other web server need to be load balanced. Okay, how the routing will happen. So just to keep a set of the application, we'll create that my web server, my web instance. Let's create my web. Okay, this is just okay. Hyphen doesn't work. My demo web will keep this only. Not required. We'll create a new template. Okay, let's keep this one. Keep it regional, not required because we are not just a simple thing. We are not hosting kind of a very global application. Allow this one, and again this one we need to allow, and save and continue this one. Okay, and yeah, this is in single zone, so we are not keeping it in a very multiple zone. So we'll keep that. This is a basically here if you see that automatically manage group of VM that do stateless serving, and here manually. So we will go with the manual so that we'll know what we are doing. Basically, if I use this will be automatically taking that. So let's keep this, and here I will add the my VM instance. Okay, it's in US West, right? I'm not sure it's a C or so. Basically, you should be able to add your instance here. Let's see. Okay, let's go back and see it's where. Okay, it was a US West B. Okay, so that's why it was not coming. So let's this is the thing we have to remember, because basically what we're creating, we are creating an instance group, and we are putting our systems in that instance group so that we can put our load balancer also there, and we can uh, create a group kind of environment where you can route your load balance the your web traffic basically. So you can also search here. Group. Okay, let's create instance group. Okay, let me read it out. So, what is instance group is? Instance group is a let you organize your instances or use them in a load balancing backend services. You can group existing instance or create a group based on instance template. Okay, since we have created a VM already, we will use the first one. Basically, we will manually group them. Okay, let's create the instance group. Let's do this. My demo. You can keep always simple so that you can delete if you don't need it. So I've selected this one because our VM is in this one. Let me open a duplicate. So the problem is we need to have a exact location. US West. Okay, so the problem is this gives by default, and we need to be sure where which zone it is. It's a US West before, so that you can basically connect your VM to this. So now, since we are in US West 4, US West B, and so now our web server is visible here. We could do this step using the automated method, but since I have taken the manual step, I have created the basically VM manually. So this could have been automated as well. So it's better we go with the manual since we are doing a kind of a demo. Okay, so now we have what we have done is we have created a web server, we have created an instance group. Now let's create a load balancer to forward our traffic to the web server. So let's go to the similar way, load balancer. Okay, let's get into load balancing. So again, what is a load balancer? Basically, you can see here, load balancing distribute the incoming network traffic across multiple VM instances. It will help your application scale. So basically what we're saying is here, whenever requests come, it will come from internet to your load balancer, and load balancer can distribute the traffic. Okay, so let's create a load balancer. Okay, so one of the thing is in load balancing is there are different type of load balancer. Okay, so there are network load balancer, there are application load balancer. So uh, even the UDP based load balancer, okay, TCP and SSL based, and this one. So this is a layer 7 HTTPS load balancer. If you see layer 4 load balancer, layer 4 load balancing with UDP protocol. So when I was saying that you should have understanding of basic, that what is a TCP, what is UDP, where we need to use application load balancer, where we need to network load balancer. So those things, those basic understanding need to be there to decide on which one to take. So since it is a application web, we are hosting a web server. So we will go with the web-based, application-based load balancing, just for the simplicity. So if I am hosting any kind of basically, if there is a web application firewall instead of a load balancer, and I just need to route my traffic, then and I don't want any application level decision, I'll use a network level load balancer, right? UDP, where I don't need a basically kind of reliable connection. My request should come and just I should not get feedback. Just forward the traffic and forget. Then I'll take the load balancer. This is again uh, terminologies and technologies based on your requirements. So we will use the basic HTTPS. Okay, since we are just simply hosting a web server. Okay, so now there are three aspects when we talk about the load balancer. So basically here, when the request will come, there is a front end, and there is a front end, there is a back end. So basically you tell your load balancer what is your front end request, what is your back end request, where which are the servers will be load balanced, what on what port it will run. So those things we'll see. So this is the name. So we will use HTTP only because, as I mentioned, I'm not going to install SSL certificate and all. So we'll keep this one. It will run on port 40. This one, these things are required if you are keeping the timeout and all. So we're not doing this configuration, but in production environment, ideally we should do. So this is a front end. Basically, it will be HTTP protocol, not HTTPS. It will run on port 80. This is a front end configuration. The request will come on a front end, and on back end, basically, what we're saying is on back end, what kind of services will be running. So it is a my demo backend. Backend as well. This one we will use. So here, see, look at this now. So what is the purpose of instance group? Now I am just creating my instance group. Okay, so whatever number of servers and whatever I'm creating, so this will keep on adding here. so that this keeps the grouping easy. Okay, we don't need any CDN because we are not using all these things. Uh, we also don't need to log this. Basically, we are just, it's a demo, but yeah, if you are in production, so it will ask for the health check. So let's create a health check. Basically, it will give you the keep on updating the health of the server, that whether it's up or running or not. This is again same thing. Basically, it will send a request, health request, basically heartbeat request to the server, and it will just keep you giving in the health details. We'll see how it uses uh, in a this one in a practical scenario. Okay, my demo load balancer. So let's create this. So three things you need to create: front end, back end, and rules, and the health check. Okay, so now let's say it's creating. So let's let it get created. So it will take some time to create the load balancer, backend services, front end services, all those things. So let's give it a couple of minutes. Okay, so now it is created. Okay, so let's look at the details now, what it is. So now look at this. So now here the front end and the back. What this is a front end IP. Okay, this is a keep alive and basically advanced configuration, and this is a health check. So now look, let's try to access this server. Okay, now the web server should be accessible. So this is the IP, the front end IP on this should be accessible. So let's look at the help. Okay, let's verify the Apache status. It is running. Let's give it a minute. Okay, it's showing. Okay, I don't know. 1 minute. HTTPS. Back end, front end. Any issue? Okay, it's showing healthy. 1 minute. Okay, backend advanced configuration. Okay, it's showing everything correct. View traffic policy. Okay, this is fine, no problem. Okay, somehow it took time. Normally, it does not take this much time. I'm surprised why it took this much time despite showing it healthy. Yeah, so now you see, now the traffic is basically what we have done is now we have created a VM and we have tried to put that VM behind the load balancer. So the step involved is basically you create a VM, you create an instance group, you put your VM basically in the instance group, and you create a load balancer and you put your instance group behind the load balancer. So this is a very simplified version of creating a web service. So now let's say I can look into let me see if locate works. Okay, so again it will ask for. So let me install BIM tool. So BIM is nothing but a uh, file editing tool. Okay, so like it's like you have a notepad in Windows. It's similar to that. So let's look into the Apache 2 config file. Okay, so you can look into the Apache config in Apache config 2. Okay, and you can modify here, and this is basically I want to show uh, where the configuration stars are stored. So this is the basically configuration file. This is basically this one. So yeah, so we could see like you can simply install one web server, this web server. So let's stop this. Okay, let's see if it stop and it works. So let's see first status. It's running. Let me stop it. Now let's see the status. It stopped. Let's see if it works. Okay, it stopped. So yeah, so these are the basic thing. Now you can do is like you put your web server, your HTML file behind in the on the server, and you'll be able to use it. Okay, okay, it's running. It will take a few seconds. Yeah, it's back. Uh, it's in it. Okay, so I could show you here only. So this is a folder, and this is the configuration. You can define the port. Let's say uh, you want to change the port. Okay, so we can always go and change port here. So you can see basically same configuration is shown here. So if you want to search, let's say 80. So look at the. Okay, so include ports. So it's in ports conf. Okay, so basically, if you want to modify, you want to configure, I think this is more of a web development area. But yeah, what I'm trying to show is how we can make it work in a simplified way, and we can get into. basically we can get started. And you can change the index.html file here, and you can view your web servers. Okay. And if you want to change this IP, and if you want to put, let's say, your DNS, you can there is a DNS services uh, from Google as well. You can buy domains, and create basically DNS, and you can configure it. So if you, let's say, you want to use your own domain name, let's say your site.com, suresh.com, so we can buy the DNS, and you can host your DNS services here, and then you can access that with the domain name instead of uh, this one. So you can also see, if, let's say, if you want to modify your file. Okay, so let me copy this and back this up, so that so let's say I want to move this in this one. Okay, so that if I want to take it back, so let's say I'll delete everything. It's quite big. Let's do one thing. I'll show you another command. Let's get into the index.html, basically the folder. So it's in var html. Okay, so you can see here. So let me remove this index.html. Okay, let me create new index.html. Yeah. So let's create a simple HTML. This Vim is not a very user friendly. So now let's see if it shows. So yeah, okay. So now whatever file you're putting here, it will show here. Okay. So this is just a simple thing. I wanted to show you how to run a web server, how to utilize basically GCP services to host a website. I'm sure it's a very simple. I hope this was very helpful. I mean, to just get you started. All right. This with this, we'll just end the demo. All right. So we have achieved this. We have hosted our this one. So one thing I want to add, if you're using Google Cloud or any services, make sure you shut down your VMs and any of the your services which is consuming your cost, so that you don't end up wasting your money. So if you're till the time you're using, keep it up. Otherwise, just you can stop it. And if you want, you can delete it also. So I will do it later, but just keeping you informed, so that you don't end up paying a huge amount. So you can keep checking your basically you can go on your default project, and you can see the bill and all. Okay, so that you don't end up paying you see. Okay, so you just keep checking. It's a trial, but since you need to provide your credit card. If it exceed this limit, you will be billed on your credit card. So be very careful with that. So I'll shut it down once this is done. So make sure you also do it. Let me show you also if you want. It's a very simple step. Go to the same instance. So basically, you'll be charged mostly for the load balancer and this one. So let's stop this. So this will stop your VM. Similarly, you can go and do it the load balancer as well. So that, because as and when we saw, right, it's running and it will be billed to you. So we have successfully achieved this. Hope this gives you some insight on GCP usage. All right, let's get into the next step. So basically, what we have done is, I just try to introduce you GCP. This is not a kind of training. We have a full-fledged training related to GCP on Google Cloud as well everywhere. So let's utilize that. Try to, as I mentioned, utilize the basic trial and get your hands dirty. Utilize a free amount. Also, there is a Google Lab Learn. So I think Google GCP is having a, a good training program, and you can utilize that. So see here you can use, and Google is having very good certification and learning mechanism. And also, if you don't want to certify, they have a good 30 days learning. This one you can try this, get yourself registered. Basically, you can use the same Google account and try yourself. All right. As I mentioned again, I cannot insist more on anything else other than understanding the fundamentals. Because if you don't have clarity about these fundamentals about general cloud computing, networking, operating system, virtualization, and other services, it is very difficult to get into advanced level, right? And after that, the advanced level are like CI/CD, DevOps, which we'll cover in future topics. So, with this, I would like to end this session. Thank you, and I hope this helps you start your journey in GCP. Thank you so much.